So if you think of just a couple of finger width distance apart for the feet, and then feel the balance of the weight in the feet. So we're going to balance that front and back, inside and outside, left and right. Bit more energy to the legs. So there's a feeling of pressing weight into the feet, the soles of the feet. And then paying attention to the leg muscles holding the leg bones and drawing the muscles up into the hips. So we lift the kneecaps up and then the tailbone sinks down. And then a bit more energy here through the low belly. We'll use our fingers. We'll just get the abdominal wall to activate. We're drawing inward a little bit, a feeling of bringing our ribs up. As we draw and engage in the front body, still stay in touch with the tailbone, that feeling of it sinking downward. So we lengthen at the back of the waist. Now we're going to start with the fingers low, and we'll run up the center as we breathe in. And just hold our breath as we open the arms and lower the arms, breathing out. So if we take our exhale through the lips slightly apart, we'll slow that breath down. So our own tempo here, we'll get one more. Okay, and then when we've released the arms down, let's take the attention back down the legs into the feet. When it's time to breathe in, we're going to bring our heels up. And we'll take them back down and lift the toes. When we do have our heels raised, see if you can bring more of the weight along the inside line of the foot. More contact at the base of the big toe than out towards the little toes. And then pay attention to the neck and the back of the head. Create a feeling of the neck going backwards, back of the head, backwards and upwards. And when the heels come down, just pause. We'll lift our toes, just pausing with the toes up, and then shifting the weight from the inside edge of the foot to the outside edge of the foot. Letting the knees soften a bit here. And then again, working with the tailbone, there's a real feeling of the tailbone getting a bit of a tuck here. It's easier to stick the tailbone back, so if you can draw it downward. And then let's come into the center again, toes still lifted, but let's see if the big toes will press down. And then the big toes lift, see if the other toes will go down. We'll go back and forth a couple of times. And then we'll play a little differently. Lift them all up. Take them all back onto the mat. Now, starting from all the toes being on the mat, See if we can bring the big toes off the mat. And then big toes down, and see if the little toes will come off as the big toes push into the mat. And switch again. Okay, and then when all toes are down, just pause for a moment. Now feel where the weight is gone. It's often headed into the heels, so we'll spread some of that weight forward. And then we're going to dig our toes in, left and right. Just dig the toes down into the mat, into the ground. And then coming neutral here, letting the foot relax. And then let's bend our knees, and we'll get the knees so they're touching, the hands down near the knees. We'll create a simple circle at the knee, letting the ankles move freely. When we're ready, we'll change our direction. And switching for ourselves once or twice. Now, when we're ready to, we come into the center and just pause there for a moment, sinking the hips, energizing the glutes. And then before we come up, just adjust the neck. So lift the neck up, the back of the head up, tuck the tailbone, and then inhale coming up. And as we come up, bring the hands up the center. We'll get ourselves tall. We'll keep the hands going. And they'll go all the way up. Fingertips point to the ceiling. And we'll look upward. And gently move the hips forward. Now, when it's time to breathe out, have the arms start as we exhale. Elbows bend, hands lower. We get to where we can clearly see the hands in front of our face. And then as we go lower, we're going to round over. So tuck the tailbone, push the tailbone forward, but the waist back, the ribs back. We're going to bring the arms close and low so we spread the shoulder blades. And just tuck the chin. And we're going to leave when we inhale. Let the arms start, let the hands, elbows lift. Once they're in front of the face, we're going to start to lift everything else. We're going to keep going higher and higher, letting the arms open, reaching up. When we're long here, the pelvis moves forward a bit. And we reverse again when we're ready to, breathing outward. Let the arms start. And as the arms drop low, the eyes follow the hands. The chin is tucking. And really round up the back by tucking the tailbone and bringing the collarbones down toward, inward and down toward the pubic bone. Let's take one more cycle. We'll use an inhale to float up. Let the arms move up as well. As we reach, reaching in the fingers, lifting the shoulders, taking the gaze up and the hips forward. And then we're going to melt back down. So we draw ourselves inward so we can round the back, tuck the tailbone, move the waist back, chin is tucked. And then to leave here, rather than bring the arms up the center, reach out to the side as you inhale. And just float back up. And this time, just the arms easy up. And here, sense again the soles of the feet, reach through the fingertips, tucking the tailbone. And then we'll just keep ourselves nice and long as the arms come down, breathing out. Okay, let's take our feet just a bit wider apart. Think of hips width. And then we're going to bend the knees again, but keep the hands at the hips. So we're going to circle again, but the circle now really involves the hips more. And we can go back and forth, get both directions, letting the hips get lots of movement. Okay, and then pausing in center and just draw a figure 8 with the hips, a horizontal figure 8. And after a couple, we're going to switch our direction. So come into the center point and just reversing the direction. And then when it feels the same amount, just pause for a moment again with the knees bent, tailbone tucked here. And just imagine there's that high chair, a bar stool. We're just perched on the edge. And from here, move the back of the chest back and the neck back and the back of the head up. And then we're going to inhale up, just straightening the legs. So we get that full inhale all the way up to our collarbones. Whenever we're ready to breathe out, stay tall, breathe out down into the low belly. Now just visualize your breath going down the legs into the soles of the feet. And then from here, we're going to keep the front of the foot where it is, but pull the heels closer. And then just fine tune. So we've got a comfortable position, heels pretty close. And if we were to look at our feet, they're kind of out 45 degrees. So I'm going to bend one knee. I'm going to bend my right knee and touch the hand on my knee. Left hand's going on my hip. And I'm going to, on my exhale, bring this right hand down on the inside of my right leg. I'm going to run down towards my heel. I'm just going to look down and follow the hand. And I want to feel the weight in both feet and have comfortable strength down my legs. And I'm going to look to the left side. Breathing in, I'm going to reach up my left arm. I'm going to take my gaze upward. Now, if we're comfortable in the shoulder, we can bend the wrist so the palm faces the ceiling. And if we're comfortable in the shoulder, we're going to turn the hand so the thumb points behind. And then we're going to leave. So soften that upper arm, look at the lower arm. On the inhale, follow the lower arm up the body, bring the upper arm back to the hips. So for the other side, I bend the left knee, going to come down part of the way, just pause there for a moment, and then I'm going to keep sliding the hand down the leg. I'm going to follow with the eye, so I'm looking down at that lower hand. I just check in with the weight through my feet. I look right, extend the right arm. Here I can bend the wrist if I wish, rotate the arm so the fingertips point away, the thumb points to the other side of the body. And feel the soles of the feet. Once you've adjusted that upper arm, feel what's happening in the legs. And then I'm going to release. So I'm going to look down, soften the upper arm. Inhale, I'm going to bring myself up, lower the upper hand. I'm going to end up with both hands back at my hips. We'll get this once more for each side. We can just flow with our breath. So bending the right knee as we breathe out, melting down. So that lower hand goes where it goes. And then we look sideways over to the left, up toward the ceiling. If we're comfortable extending that arm. And then we're going to leave. So we'll look down and follow the lower arm up as we come up. the upper arm returns. And then our last side, knee bends, out breath runs the hand down the body. And then looking sideways, then upwards, releasing the upper arm. And when we're ready to leave here, we look down at the lower arm, and the inhale brings us up. We get back in neutral. We just take a moment with the balance of weight through the feet. So right from here, maybe lift the heels up. And just pause there for a moment. And feel where the weight's gone. See if there can be a bit more weight at the base of the big toes. And when you're ready to bring the heels down, move the heels out. So we're back to the feet being about hip width apart. And then we're going to take the hands onto the waist, top of the hip. When we exhale, we'll turn our right side back and we'll release the right arm pointing behind us. When we inhale, turn forward, the arm's vertical. Exhale, touch the opposite shoulder. Slide the hand all the way down that left side. And then the inhale brings the right hand up the right side, back on the hip. So breathing out, left side goes back, arm releases. Inhale, reaching up and turning forward. Exhale, traveling down the side. Let's get this once more for each side of the body. Okay, so after we finish there, we still have the feet about hips width apart. We're going to pull the heels close together again, and we're going to work again with our foot and ankle. So heels close, feet opened, little space between the heels. And the right heel lifts off, so now we're on the ball of the right foot. And then on that right foot, come right up onto the tops of the toes. So there's hardly any weight here. And then see if you can come onto the tops of the toes. So possibly a bit more weight. And then that ankle, that right ankle, see if you can press gently outwards at the ankle. And then to come out of here, come onto the tops of the toes. And then onto the ball of the foot. And then the heel is down. Now for the left side, the heel lifts. There's the ball of the foot. We can add a bit of weight. Up onto the tips of the toes. So hardly any weight here. And then over carefully onto the tops of the toes. So they're curled under, and lightly press outward at the ankle. And then coming back in to the tips of the toes, and then down onto the ball of the foot, and then the heel goes down. We're going to repeat. So the heel up to the tips of the toes, rolling over to the top of the toe, gently moving outward. Same steps back in, tip of toe, ball of foot, and then heel down. And our last side, heel comes up, and the tips of the toes, and the tops of the toes, ankle gently pressing outward, and reversing to the tips of toes, to the ball of the foot, and heel down. Okay, when we get back, to swing the feet apart again, and let's walk the feet out a bit further. So now I'm going to turn my feet clearly inward. And for that to be successful, I have to sink my knees downward. And then right here, if you put the hand at the hip, you can see there's movement through the tailbone. It can go forward and backward. And I want to, for myself, really tuck it forward and sink down where I naturally do. Now we get here, we might find, oh, I need my feet adjusted, my knees adjusted. I want to get this so the joints are comfortable. And also that we feel strong in the position. We don't want to feel tenuous. So tailbone's tucked. For myself, I want to feel like I'm between two panes of glass. And then I'm going to start with the hands on the hips, just getting the upper body to go side to side. Once I feel that I'm moving the upper body and the hips aren't really moving, I'm going to take my hands onto my low ribs. And just keeping the hips as still as possible so the movement comes out of the ribs. And then I'm going to take my hands now with the fingertips on my shoulders. And I'm going to add a little more when I go to the side, doing my best to not move from my hips, keeping the tailbone tucked, the hips low. And then when I go to the left side, I'm going to send out that left arm, I'm going to drop it down, I'm going to send out the right arm, swing it up. So both hands, wrist bends, both arms rotate. So on this lower arm, fingers point behind, then keep rotating so the thumb starts to point backward. It's the same rotation on the upper arm. I'm tucking my tailbone, bending my knees, doing my best not to lean forward. And I'm going to press the hands in both directions and then press onto the feet. And last chance to tuck the tailbone. And then to inhale, we'll come to center. Now we'll keep the arms wide. And when I breathe out, I'll just press to the right side, right arm down, left arm up. Again, rotate the arms, push in the hands, tuck the tailbone, and feel that we've kept the chest turned forward. And then inhale to neutral. Now do one more. We'll go over to the left, left down, right up. Press with the right arm briefly, but then bend the elbow. Now my palm facing left, I'm going to push a bit further and then ease off. I'm going to push a bit further, easing off. Again, trying not to lean forward. And one more. And then when I inhale, I'll undo to neutral. And I'll press right, right's down, left pushes up, elbow bends, and then presses outward, and pushes. So we're pushing and easing off, keeping the tailbone tucked. Okay, last time. Inhale to neutral. Now inhale all the way up, straightening the legs, turn the feet out right away. Stay tall, just bring the arms down. Now adjust the legs a little bit. They probably want a slight variation. And keeping the legs straight, just a gentle movement right at the hip here. Okay, so basically this distance, hands are at the hips. So right hand's gonna slide down the right leg. And then inhale up the left arm. And then bring the left arm out close to the ear. And then simply push outward through that palm. Now, if you want to get a rotation in the arm, we're going to point the thumb down, the fingers behind. And then we're going to come up as we inhale. And then before we go to the other side, we'll bring the hands back on the hips. We're going to start going down the left leg with the left hand just sliding down the leg. So left hand's going to stay near the leg. Right arm comes up, push, and then bring the arm near the ear and push out. Okay, now inhale will bring us up. Exhale is going to bring those arms down. We're going to get the feet in closer. And just find the place that feels strong right now. You do want to feel the sole of the foot, the ball of the foot. Okay, and then here's our in-breath. Sweep the arms all the way up toward the ceiling. Lift the shoulders, reach through the fingertips, tuck the tailbone. On the out-breath, arms are going to come down. We're going to take one more. And this time the arms come only half of the way down. And then the fingertips touch our shoulders, open out again. And then we're going to leave the fingertips on the shoulder and then turn the right elbow forward, the left elbow back. Keep the gaze straight ahead. So the ribs and shoulders turn, doing our best to keep the spine faced forward. So the hips are dragged a little bit, that's inevitable, but keep looking straight ahead. Now, when it's the right elbow forward, we're going to pause, extend out the right arm, palm forward, fingers down, release the left arm, lift the elbow up, and then the fingers drop in and down. And then we can make this bigger by pushing back in the left elbow, back and up, forward in that front palm. And then we're going to rotate as we switch. Arms rotate, ribs rotate. And just a smooth transition back and forth. Now let the knees bend a little bit once you get going with this. Okay. So left arm out in front. There's the last one. And then melt. Actually, let's come center and we'll have both arms out in front. So we'll just end here. Bend the knees just enough. Okay. So both just for a moment, pushing what we want to feel. What are we after here? Get the shoulder blades to move forward. So with the arms in this position, I'll only go so far. And then soften, melt the arms down. Okay, arms get low and they just hang, but they're lifted a little bit from the sides. And the arms just rotate back and forth. Now, if you happen to have two yoga blocks, this is an excellent use for two yoga blocks, one in each hand. It's virtually perfect spacing to keep the arms away from the side. And with that spacing, we can maybe feel into the armpit here. Okay, and when we're ready to, we're going to slow it down. We'll get whatever stance we want. I want to come a little closer. Adjust that camera. Okay, so my left hand is just at the top of the sternum, fingertips above and below. There's my collarbone underneath those fingers somewhere. And so here's my right arm. So I'm going to bend the wrist, keep it away from the side a bit. This left hand has two jobs. Just one is to just sense any changes underneath the hand, but also to help me keep my front body just squared forward. So when I'm ready to go with my right hand, I rotate the arm. Really hard to do when you watch yourself. So I'm going to rotate the arm. So now the thumb is pointing backwards, the fingertips pointing in toward the hips and lift it up. And then I'm going to take this arm back a bit behind the body. Now, when I take the arm back, there's a real tendency for me to want to turn. And I want to keep my core faced forward. And then let's check in with the core. We're going to tuck our tailbone, move the neck back, lift up in the back of the head. Bending the knees just helps us a bit, just helps us with the image of tucking the tailbone. So we get the core, and then again, we'll go to the right arm. It's going to press back, and we can start to feel potentially a draw in the area of this shoulder, on the inner edge here, up the front of the neck, around the collarbone, keeping the breastbone face forward. Just press back a little bit. And now let's take the head away. So I tip the head away. Without moving the head, the position of the skull, rotate the face back toward that right side. And then without changing the face, look with the eyes down toward those left fingertips. And now we're all the way in position. And ground into the soles of the feet. The tailbone is tucked. Keep working with that right arm. And we're going to leave now. Let's leave by softening the right arm. And then release the head and neck to neutral. Release the left arm. And just some gentle rotation. So the right arm probably feels quite different than the left. We'll get the left a chance to catch up. The right hand now, top of the sternum, fingers around the collarbone. I'm going to right off bend my knees and tuck my tailbone. And now when I'm ready, the left hand moves out to the side, rotates, and then gently presses back. Now we press back, we tend to pull that shoulder back. We want to come back in neutral, faced forward. And check in with the back body. And now tip the head away. And then keeping that orientation, turn the head towards the left. Don't move the head, move the eyes. Look for those right fingertips. And then check in with the back body, neck back, tailbone tucked, spine long. Knees bent enough that we can keep that tailbone tucked, helps us lengthen through the lumbar. Okay, we're going to release. Let's bring the head to neutral and then release the arm, release both arms, and hopefully they feel more similar. Some gentle movements. Okay. So we're going to get just one more stretch here through this whole upper body, and then we're going to make our way down, heading down for the mat. So we're going to use both arms. I'm going to start with the arms away from the sides, Spread the fingers, a bit of energy here, and back a little bit, not a lot, but just that feeling, yes, they've gone back a bit. And when we breathe in, they're gonna come up tall. So I brought my elbows higher than my shoulders. I'm just gonna get closer and lower here. My elbows are higher than my shoulders. And then I'm gonna bend the elbows. I'm gonna turn the palms here up toward the ceiling. And if you want, just with the fingertips, find the top of the head, and we're just a bit off the top of the head. The palms push up, the elbows gently pull back. Tuck the tailbone. So maybe soften the knees so the tailbone can tuck. We can lift the back of the neck, the back of the head. Now you might get tingling down in the little finger, the pinky finger, the ring finger, and soften out, soften off if you do. If it's really not acceptable, it's time to leave. When we're ready to leave, first soften the hands, maybe wiggle the fingers, soften the wrists, and then open the arms out. Just come down and just some gentle back and forth. Shake the hands out. Okay, and now let's head down for our mat. And today, we'll just get ourselves down. If you want to come down through a squat, we won't spend a long time going up and down. So whenever we're ready to, we're down on the mat. And then just gently, when you get here, just gently give the legs a little shake, a little bounce. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just have my fingertips off to the sides. And that gives me room for my legs. Now, if you've got a floor, if you've got a carpet, it's going to be a bit difficult. If you've got a floor, so there's legs wide, legs coming close. I'm on the outside edge here. I come up just where I can, and then I press out and wide. Now, what do I want to feel? Okay, as I pull in here, what I could do is kind of round in my hips, and now for myself, I'm on my tailbone, and I don't want that. So how far can I come in without losing the weight being on what we call the sit bones, the ischial tuberosities? So fingertips just help us with a bit of stability. Okay, and then we'll slow this down. We'll just get the legs out and just in and out, keeping the legs pretty straight. Okay, and we're going to come back in here. Now we'll work with this position. I want to find my version, right? My own body's version. So some of the things we want to look for in our body, I want to start with the hips. I'm on my sit bones, right? My ischial tuberosities. So there's a feeling of what we call sitting up internally. At the same time, there is a little bit of tuck to the tailbone, keeps the back of the waist open. So I want to find my version of that. Sole of the foot presses downward toward the ground, knees moving outward, right? Those two things, but then top of your inner thighs, activate those muscles, pull them inward. So all of that creates a powerful base from which we can lift up. When we're ready to breathe in, we're going to sweep the arms wide and tall. We're going to push the ceiling upward and then tuck the chin a little bit, lift the back of the head, move the neck back. Let the eyes go down. So just have our eyes look towards our feet without moving the head. And push up. And then let the arms naturally open wide, somewhere around 45 degrees. As for ourselves, like that's very natural in terms of our own architecture. Press wide, lift tall. As we move the shoulders, there's extra space for the ribs to come up. So take advantage of that. Knees push out. Sole of the foot toward the mat. Inner thighs pulling in towards each other into the hips. Okay, and soften the arms. And just hold the knees. Bring the feet up. So feet are flat. Now I'm going to round my back. So I'm going to slide the hands down. I'm going to exhale into my belly. Push the back of the waist backward. With the arms low, down near the ankles, the shoulder blades go wide. They move to the sides. And I round the spine back. And then when I inhale, I'm just going to slide the hands up a bit as I lift myself tall. So take a look at where the feet are now for ourselves. Right? The feet are out there where it's comfortable, but this is roughly a 90-degree angle, right, at the knee. So I'm going to add a bit of weight to the soles of the feet. Tuck the tailbone, but keep the weight at the front of the hip. And then I'm going to lift myself up. And when I breathe in, I'm going to sweep out and up. Again, I push the ceiling up, lift the shoulders, and I bring the ribs up because of the space I've created. I'm going to move the neck back. And then keep the action into the soles of the feet. And if you want, see if you can lift the big toes. And then if the knees want to just touch each other, take them apart a little bit as you keep pushing up. And then just see for yourself if you can find the inner thighs. And they activate. So when they activate, they both pull into the hips and toward each other. And just bring the arms out just above the shoulders, lifting, lifting. And then soften, take the knees again. Just release the toes, let the toes wiggle a bit. We're going to round as we exhale. Okay. Inhale, back up the legs. And then let's do a different version where we cross the legs. So we'll do both sides. Doesn't matter which leg's in front. What I want to do though for this one, still activating the ankles. There's a bit of a knife edge, right? Action at the outside edge of the foot with some energy in the ankles. Gentle pressing with the legs to press the knees outward and downward. Working in the hip, little tuck to the tailbone. The weight still at the front of the hip. And then work with the back body to extend upwards. Find the neck, back of the head. They go up and back. And now the arms. We're going to do something a little different with the arms. We're going to bring the palms together. Now, as we inhale, we're going to take our arms up slowly. And as they go higher and higher, we get to a point usually where we start to feel kind of gummed up in the back. And if we hit that point, When we do, we let the hands separate so just the fingertips are touching. And we can pause here and see if internally we can fine tune. And then maybe we can go higher and higher. And we may reach a point where for us, no, I need my hands apart. And then we work with that. We just keep reaching. The important thing is that we're reaching out through the fingertips, reaching up, and then take the gaze downward without moving the head to fall forward, lifting up at the back of the head, looking down. Okay, and then soften the arms. Let the arms just melt back down. So we can keep our core lifted as we bring the arms down. And now we're going to switch our legs. So just take a moment to find this seat in the body. Left and right can be different. We start to work in the hips, as we know. Little tuck to the tailbone. Back of the waist going back. Lifting up through the back body, the neck, the back of the head. And then we start with the palms together. Now when we're ready, the arms just traveling up. As we get higher, there's often a place where things start to feel sticky. And if we can pause here, we can maybe adjust our way through it. It's always cool to separate to just the fingertips touching or the hands apart. But whichever version, the requirement to push up is always the same. Without pushing the head forward, moving the neck back, back of the head up, and the gaze goes down. And since we're gently looking down with the eyes, press the knees downward. And take the attention from the legs into the hips, up the back body, all the way up to the fingertips. Push the ceiling. And then relax the arms. Let the arms soften, melt down. See if we can keep the spine as the arms come down. Okay, good. Let's undo the legs. Just stretch the legs out forward. I've got my hands behind my hips, and I'm just shaking my legs. Okay, so I'm going to bring my arms forward off the mat. And when I breathe out, the arms and we're all going to turn. Right arm goes back, left arm forward. I'm going to turn toward the right leg. And then I'm just going to reach out through my fingertips and look down at that right knee. When I breathe in, I'm going to come into the center again, just floating the arms. And when I breathe out, I'm going to go to the left side. So right hand near the left leg. But see, for the moment, you just reach in the fingertips, look at the knee. In-breaths are going to bring us to the center. Out-breaths are going to take us over to the other leg. And when we do breathe in the center, really take the time to fill the lungs all the way up to the collarbones. At some point, we're going to be at the right side. When we get to the right side, we're going to stay there. So when we get to the right side, put the right hand down, put it on the ground behind, and bring the left hand somewhere onto the right leg. Now, once you've put the hands down, see if you can work in the right side of the belly. And see if you can, with the exhale, tuck the right side of the belly in. Tuck it gently inward. And then we look at the right knee, reach out in the crown of the head. Bit of energy in the thighs here. And just melting down. Now we're going to leave when we inhale. So the inhale starts to lift us, release the left arm, float it out, bring the right arm round. In the center, we really fill with air. And then when we're ready, as we're breathing out, we turn to the left leg, sorry. Going to the left leg, left hand on the ground behind, right hand comes over to the left leg. Now see if you can tuck in at the left belly. And then keeping energy through the legs, just melting down toward the leg. And we're going to come up with an inhale. So release the arms, let them float out and up above the shoulders as we breathe in. When we're ready to breathe out, we're going to reach forward, the hands touch somewhere on the legs. Doesn't matter where we hold on the legs. What we want to do, though, is tuck the tailbone, tuck the belly in, energize the thighs, lift the neck and the back of the head. And then from that work, just let the spine melt. And then we get our inhale, just slide the hands up the legs. Okay. So I brought my knees in, put my hands behind, and I'm simply going to let the legs travel to one side, then travel to the other side. Okay, just a couple of times here, just a easy range of motion. Now, when the knees come back up, I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to stretch out my right leg. I get my right leg straight. I'm going to take my left foot onto the outside of the straight leg. The right leg is straight, left leg over on the outside. Okay, so activate the straight leg in the ankle. Now on this bent leg, my left leg, I'm going to bring the foot up. So just the heel touches, and then I'm going to activate the big toe. So left leg, just heel, ball the foot's off the ground, and then the big toe is lifted. So opposite hand is just going to touch below the knee, and I'm going to use that hand to help get me height and to get the weight in the hips toward the front of the hips. The belly's engaged into the low back. I want to try to lengthen the back of the waist, lengthen up through the core, all the way up, back of the neck, back of the head. So legs engaged. And now here's the left leg, left arm. So I bend the wrist, spread the fingers. And now I'm pushing forward as strongly as I can. I'm going to keep that straight leg, keep the ankle happening. On this knee, this left knee, rather than it fall outward from the inside, I want it to push towards center. And this hand, right hand's holding a little bit, but it's not gripping. I mean, if we need to grip, we grip, right? But as little effort as you can make, but enough so it makes a difference. Okay, soften that arm, soften that left arm, both hands on the knee, relax the left foot, bring the left leg to the outside, stretch out the left, shake the legs. So we're going to do the other side. So now my left leg stays straight, the right knee bends in, the right foot on the outside of the knee. Straight leg, we activate the ankle. And on this bent leg, the right leg, just the heel stays down. And then see if just the big toe can lift. Opposite hand just below the knee. Adjust through the core. And then I'm going to take my right arm straight out forward. I'm going to push out so the shoulder will move. Push on that right heel. And then take the neck back, the head up, the gaze goes downward. We're going to look towards those feet. Okay, I'm going to soften that right arm, release it, relax the right foot, undo the right leg. Straighten out both legs, give them a shake. Hands are coming back. I'm going to pull my knees in. They're going to go one side, they're going to go the other side. Now, they drop to the right. I want to see if I can find a position where I could sit here for a moment. Okay, so we've been here before. Hopefully we know how to make this at least bearable for ourselves. So this is my front foot, it's my right foot, here's my left foot. I'm going to move the foot out of the way a bit. So it's in the hip, it's out from the hip. I want it out from the hip. And now both hands are going to go near to my right knee. Now I'm going to place these hands where I can. Let me just turn toward the camera. So if I could be a bit here, and it's okay, then I will. I'm going to walk forward as I go forward. I may need to track closer to the knee. All right? It's not a place to feel a lot of discomfort. We're going to hunt a stretch in the hip. So use the arms to keep weight from sinking into the right knee, into the right hip. There's weight through the forearms or the hands, depending on how low we are. But at the same time, lift the armpits up away from the floor. So we're not just dumping weight onto the arms. Okay, we're going to release. So if you were down on the elbows, lift the elbows, walk the hands in. So I've got up a bit, and then I'm going to adjust this. We're going to transition to another pose here. What I'm going to do is bring this back leg, my left leg forward, and I'm going to put the knees right on top of each other and the feet right on top of each other. And the knees are coming straight out of the hip. And then I'm going to come down on my elbow. I'm going to adjust here again, so I'm okay with my weight on my right hip. So before, we're going to go all the way down on the side, but before we do that, This is our last chance to really see our feet. We see that our feet are in line with the center of our hips. And then once we've done that, we're going to come all the way down. Initially, I'm on the right shoulder. I want to see if I can roll further toward the spine. So right arm, right shoulder has no weight, and the right hand is going to touch onto those legs. Now, last chance to really see the knees. I want to see if I can pull the knees up to the same height as my hips. And then that right hand touches somewhere on that left leg. And then I'm going to lay the spine down so my gaze is going up for the ceiling. So feel where the hips are. The left hip should be right above the right hip. The right hip comfortable into the ground. And then left knee on top of the right knee. The feet are pretty close to the hips. You can bring them in as close as you can get them. And you can feel the knees in line with the hips. Okay, now the free hand, that's our left arm. So take it straight up for the ceiling. And then bend the wrist, rotate the arm so the fingertips point away from the head toward where the feet are, the thumbs out to the side, and then lower the arm down close to the ear. So we're going to keep this left arm off the ground. We're going to push out in our palm, and then bring the attention to the upper back and let the shoulders sink into the ground, both shoulders, shoulder blades. Still pushing gently but clearly in that left hand. And then let the chin tuck a little bit, and then look down for the chest without lifting the head, without moving the head, move the eyes. And then keep working with that arm, but open it out to the side, about 45 degrees. Make sure that the angle you end up with is comfortable, and then press gently away. And you might find the shoulder blade sinks a little lower. So if you can keep the gaze downward, and the head's pretty neutral, the throat's soft. Okay, we're going to leave here. We're going to soften that left arm, lift it up. It's going to go all the way over to the right side, near the right shoulder, and somewhere where you can press a little weight as you really roll back onto the right shoulder. And then use that left hand, the right hand to push ourselves up. And we're back up. And then we're going to lean back so we can undo the legs. Once or twice, the legs and knees are going to go side to side. We're going to go to the other side by dropping the knees to the left and coming up to a seated place. Now, when we're in this seated place, we usually end up with this back leg. The right foot is close to the hip. It's very comfortable there. But in this case, we're going to open it away. Once I've done that, I'm going to start to bring my hands here over at my left knee, and I'm going to walk out a bit further away from my knee. Now the hands go back a little, if that's okay, but this has got to be comfortable. It's got to be comfortable for the knees. That's most important, the low back. And again, we're working with muscles in the hip. Wherever you end up with the weight in the arms, refine by lifting up the armpits. Okay, to leave here, we're going to put more weight in the hands. We're going to bring the hands in closer to the body. Now we got ourselves up so we can take this back leg, this right leg, and bring it up on top of the left. So we'll get our preliminary alignment here by getting the knees on top of each other, knees roughly in line with our hips, feet roughly in line with our hips, and then we start to go lower. So we get down now onto the left shoulder, the left side, and we just adjust the weight in the hip, the lower hip, the hips one above the other, the knees lined out with our hips, our feet lined out with our hips. When we feel we're there, we're going to see if we can get off that lower shoulder, that left shoulder, and roll toward the back. And once we've done that, that left hand should be available to touch the right leg. Okay, so checking the alignment and then releasing the back down toward the ground. So the gaze is now up toward the ceiling. And then when we're ready to, we're going to take the right arm vertical. Going to bend the wrist, rotate the arm so the thumb points outward, the fingertips point down the body. And then we're going to lower that arm so it's down close to the ground, just away from the ear. So pushing out through that right hand. And then we're going to open the arm outward a bit. Think of it, start 45 degrees away from the halfway between the head and the shoulder. Fine tune for the most comfortable place for yourself. The gaze, the head is upward. The eyes are looking for the chest. Get that exhale into the low belly. Feel where the tailbone is. It's a little tucked. Okay, we're going to leave, soften the right arm, bring it up vertical, and take that right hand over to the ground near the left. And then add some weight to the hand, roll onto the left side, and then we're going to push ourselves up. And we're just going to come up long enough so that we can comfortably put ourselves back on our back. So we're on our back, and then we're going to bring our knees in towards our ribs. We're just going to hold on to the legs in a comfortable place where the back of the waist and the top of the hips are able to relax into the ground. And then take the attention on the breath and fill the belly as we breathe. So on our inhales, taking our time to expand the low belly, deepen the hips. And whenever we are exhaling, breathing all that air out, getting the low belly to sink inward, the belly button dropping inward. And then let's just bring the knees a bit closer together. We'll lift our feet up so they're in the air higher than our knees. And we'll just get easy motion at the ankles. Circling one way, then the other. Just nice and loose movement for the feet and ankle. And then we're going to switch to circling at the knee, both directions. And then come neutral, and then let the feet relax. And the hands are just on top of the knee, holding the legs, open them wider, and then gently circle them together. And then drawing the knees apart and closer to the shoulders. And then we're going to reach the hands down more toward the feet, hold where it's comfortable, and then open the feet up toward the ceiling. So knees going toward the armpits, feet toward the ceiling, knees bent. Now, if you have a bolster, might be a nice choice to have it under the hips. Whatever version we have, take advantage of it to breathe into the belly. And release the belly to move with the breath. And then let's let go of the feet, let the legs straighten up, slide the hands lower down the legs. Anywhere where we hold, we've got our legs pretty straight. Think of the legs more or less straight up from the hips, so more or less vertical. And just use the hands to support them, especially if you don't have a bolster. The hands are very helpful. If you have a bolster, you probably can just let the arms rest. Now we're just going to play a bit, even if you don't have a bolster. See if you can let go of the legs and reach both arms for the ceiling, and then bend the wrists, rotate the arms so the thumbs are outward, the fingers are now pointing toward the legs, and then lower the arms close to the ears and push out with the arms, push up through the ball of the foot, the base of the big toe. Now see if you can let the back of the waist sink down. Take the eyes toward the thighs. And then bend the arms, relax the arms, reach for the legs. Let the knees bend, holding on to the legs. And just holding the legs just for a moment here, inspect the low back from the inside. See if you can get it to relax downward. And then release the legs and let the feet return to the mat. And then stretch out one leg, then the other. We're going to have our feet wider than our hips. If we have a bolster available, we want the bolster under the thighs, or we can use a pillow or two under the thighs. And then put the arms in a comfortable position, either away from the sides of the body, or we sometimes like to rest the hands on the low belly.